Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to talk to you today about how the Black Panthers were not good guys. I'm not talking about the film Black Panther. That's a really good film by Marvel, and I've seen it twice, and I highly recommend that people see it. But the group, the Black Panthers, that was started by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, while they were not anti-white, which they weren't, they were very clear of that, and they worked with several white organizations, Weather Underground being one of them, SDS, Students for a Democratic Society, the list goes on and on. However, they were not good guys, okay? Let me explain why they weren't, okay? And this is why I'm making this video, because when people watch the movie Black Panther, they're going to do some research on the Black Panthers, and they're going to just see the good things, the few good things that they did. Okay, and they did some good things, okay? They had the free breakfast for children programs, the free shoes for people in the inner cities, and they also had ambulance services in North Carolina, and the ambulance services went and treated people that had sickle cell, and sickle cell is a disease that, at least in America, at least in the South, it's unique to African Americans. And there needed to be more treatment for sickle cell in the clinics at the time, and there wasn't, unfortunately. But there should have been. It was disgraceful that it wasn't. All right. Let me go on and talk about why they were not a good organization, okay? First of all, a lot of the rank and file members, the regular members, they were not paid hardly anything. A lot of them were worked like 12, 14-hour days, and they couldn't keep the lights on, and they couldn't keep their water running because even though there was plenty of money there, because they got several donations from celebrities like Jane Fonda, Donald Sutherland, Marlon Brando, the list goes on and on and on. Because the celebrities didn't know what the Panthers were all about either. They thought it was just an organization for self-defense, but it was a lot more than that. Okay, so there was a lot of embezzlement of party funds, and if people complained about the embezzlement of party funds, usually they ended up dead. They ended up dead, or if you got into the Black Panther Party and you tried to leave, at best you got beaten to a bloody pulp and said, get out of here. But a lot of times you'd get killed if you tried to leave the organization, okay? And also working people all these hours and not hardly paying them anything, that's a sign of a cult, because usually cults keep people so busy that they don't want their members to think about different perspectives, because they don't want their members to basically know the truth about them or about what they stand for. All right. That was the other thing that had happened. Okay, here was the thing. There was a lot of drug use in the party. There was a lot of borderline forced sex, as I talked about in the previous video when talking about Huey Newton. A lot of the male Panther members would go to the female Panther members and say, if you're a true Black Panther, you'll have relations with me. Or if you're a true Black, to prove your loyalty to the party, come sleep with me. I mean, that was very common in the Black Panther Party, actually. Which is one reason one of their Asian members, Richard Aoki, became an FBI informant. I mean, he basically was. The evidence is there that he was an FBI informant, despite what California Berkeley professor Diane, not California Berkeley, I think it's UC Santa Barbara, if I'm not mistaken, but Diane Fugino, she tries to say that Aoki wasn't an FBI informant, but basically he was, and the evidence is right there. And the FBI basically just was doing something that was already going on anyway. There was a lot of rift and a lot of tension in the Black Panther Party. It wasn't as unified of a party as people want to think. And as I pointed out, Huey Newton developed a huge drug addiction. And he said the only reason he went to college was to learn how to be a better criminal. That's why he said he went to college, and that's why he said he studied the law and the Constitution, is because he wanted to know how to be a better criminal without getting caught for it. And when he was acquitted for shooting that police officer, after he was acquitted, he admitted to several members of his party that he shot the guy. Okay? And I have empathy to why the Panthers started, okay? It was the Black Panther Party for self-defense, and they modeled themselves after black veterans who armed themselves, particularly black military veterans in the South that were veterans of World War II and the Korean War, because they did not want to be lynched, plain and simple. And the first gun control laws in this country were designed to keep guns out of the hands of blacks, because blacks were being attacked left and right by the KKK. And I can empathize the way they got started. And Hugh Pearson, if you read his book, Shadow of the Panther, he has sympathy and empathy as to how they got started, okay? The SCLC was a very nonviolent group. The SNCC was more militant. But he talks about in the book that there were some SCLC people that came down to Mississippi, and they were as nonviolent as can be, and they got beaten so bad, some of them hospitalized, some of them nearly dead, and that's why they kind of switched allegiances to the SNCC. So I'm not saying they didn't start for anything bad, okay? I'm not saying that they just started because people were looking for trouble. No, that's not what happened. But I am saying that the intentions of it being started were not, it's not what it came to be, okay? It was basically a militant terrorist organization. And also Eldridge Cleaver, when him and Huey Newton broke, and the Panthers split into two factions, Eldridge Cleaver went to exile in Algeria, also Cuba. He went to North Korea as well, North Vietnam. But he basically said, I would rather be a prisoner in America than an equal or first-class citizen anywhere abroad. So when he came back, he renounced his radical ways and had started saying the Pledge of Allegiance and encouraging other people to say the Pledge of Allegiance, because he said, you have not been to these other places like I have. We don't know how good we have it in America, even as second-class citizens, which African Americans were by and large at that time. So anyways, hope everyone's doing well. Take care. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.